spoilers for Baldur's Gate 3 Act 3. So sorry for all the players here. But are you telling me that there is a single town where it has a genie, an injured mind flayer, a devil, a hidden hag, a religious cult, a mummy lord, an underwater prison, a robot factory, a murder cult, and I'm sure I'm missing a ton of more things. But if you are living in this one town, it has all of that, including a large elder brain that's going to attack. One, why the fuck are you still living there? Why are people still living in Baldur's Gate? Fuck Baldur's Gate. This place sounds horrible. And two, how are normal citizens just walking around shopping? If anyone's been in Act 3, you can run into a bunch of NPCs who are just minding their own business, talking about, I don't know, the news. You know, how is this city not already on fire? With all these sources in play. So above table, fuck this city. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Above Table, a show where we try to have order, but chaos came to visit. No, seriously, has anyone got to Act 3 of Baldur's Gate yet?
No, yeah. But I was already aware of it.
How is this city still alive?
I told you, it's Gotham Jr.
I guess so.
You're supposed to be the Batman. Save them.
And then there's just like a random zombie dude walking around.
Is there? There is.
Yeah, in the fuck.
The woman's husband, who's a yeah. If you get to that storyline, Baldur's Gate 3 sounds like just the Baldur's Gate, I should say, sounds horrible. I would never want to live there.
Would never be boring though. Always something happening.
And also there's like a sea cult or a sea church that's also pretty weird.
Yeah.
Sounds great. I love oceans. What are you talking about?
I think that technically is a church job, really.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's great.
That would make sense. I mean, she's evil, so that makes sense.
And then there's a fish cult.
There is a fish cult. There's also a haunted ship that I know you can get on and
that's
get
my jam. Let me in.
I know, right? We're right in your alley.
Let's go.
But yes, welcome everyone to Above Table. We're still finding our footing in this, but first off, we're going to begin with what I like to call a DM question, which is, what do you do when it comes to setting up a one-shot? Especially when you know that one-shot's supposed to be, you have a certain amount of time. You know, we try to respect players' times. Sometimes it goes overboard, Amber, and...
That was your fault.
Hey,
I won't blame Titan, but the three other fucks were like, give us a challenge. Bring it.
I was just running for my life. That's all.
That's true. So I know, Nick, we've asked you numerous times to make us one-shots, and you've run one-shots for, when we worked in the office. And then, Titan, I actually don't know your history. I know you are a DM, but I don't know your history in making one-shots. Do you make a lot?
I do. I usually do it for, like, the group that I usually play with. That's obviously not you guys that I run. When we have, like, weeks or long stretches of time where we can't do the main campaign, I'll do one-shots. So far, it's mostly been Feywild-based, so I do a lot of Fey one-shots.
It's a fun realm to explore.
Yeah.
What is everyone's process? Like, let's say you have 3 or 4 hours, and that's your time slot. What do you want to make sure that you have in there? How long do you think the story, or at least how you build your stories, how long do you think it should be? How many encounters? What do you include?
The ones that I've been the most fond of running, this one actually wasn't a Feywild one-shot. This was a Halloween one-shot.
Ooh.
And it was one of the ones that I had to labor the hardest at, where it was a bunch of enclosed stories that reflected the character coming in and like their backstory and their past, and it was drawing on what they had, but like everything was wrong, and like it wasn't the same. Like, it wasn't the same people, it wasn't the same places, but it was kind of vibe wrong, you have to fix it. and it won't make the same past, but it's like a storybook kind of thing. You're trying to fix the story. So that is to say, I like to do mine in segments. So like you have segment 1 of a story, or like of the one shot, and 2 and 3 and however many you need. I usually do 3. And then if you do a final boss or whatever.
Yeah.
Have
Modular.
it.
It's
Yeah.
like, I've always screamed that to the skies, that modular one shots are so good.
Yeah.
Where I've had 2 good examples of like diving into a crypt and seeing all these trapped rooms, or I have this one where Eternity Rail, where each room, each cart or car of a train is its own universe and puzzle and encounter. And you can then go, okay, what time is it? All right, we've got like 2 hours left. Yeah, we could do another cart, and we do another car. And then you're like, all right, now we only got 30 minutes. All right, next car you go into, that's the last one. And then you can cut out the 3 other ones you've made. Modulars are super fun. The only problem I have with modulars is that if the story revolves around you're going to encounter random shit, it works great. But if you're building a thing where it's like every beat has to have some significance, what do you give up?
Yeah. For the Fae one shots, then I'll let other people talk and I'll quit yapping.
You're good.
I've done one that was a few of them are much more narrative, because it was following a previous player character who like was a level 20, and then like the Fae friends that he collected along the way, and he was trying to complete a goal. The most recent one was he was trying to recruit Archfae to his cause and to his friend's cause. So we have to go to each of these major figures and try to talk them into it. And that one was more of like keeping an eye on the clock, and then already kind of knowing ahead of time like how this is going to go, and then cutting on travel time. So like, because it's the Fae, you can do fun things of a Fae shortcut. So you walk backwards while whistling, and that will get you to the new location.
Oh, hey.
But like, you have to figure out that information. Like, that's kind of the puzzle, and then that cuts out on having to do encounters, and instead you can get to all the major beats you need to get to, and have those be the encounters. Like, they ran into one who just wasn't there, replaced by a different, more evil Archfey who decided, I'll fight you and kill you right now. And they had to, like, work their way out of it.
That's really clever. I think, Nick, there's a theme I recognize from your one-shots, and a lot of them are like, you are timed in-game.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think, I mean, you made a lot of good points. The modularity, like my DM notes often will have like just notes to self, check time. If there's more time, then do this. If not, this is the end of this part, right? Like try to move it around, and I try to estimate how much time it'll take. You have to have combat if it's D&D. That needs to be a thing. That's how people show off their characters in a limited format. Like everybody's going to expect some of that. That's always going to take more time than you anticipated. Yeah. That's going to eat up most of your time. So a couple of good dramatic fights is usually enough. I'm thinking of when we did the Home Alone Christmas theme one years ago. It was like one location, you're defending this house. It's phases. Here's phase 1, they're attacking, defend. Then there's like the interlude. Then there's phase 2. And so that, like, I could look, are we halfway through? We should be halfway through at this point, right? I had ways to make the fights longer or shorter as needed, but I never needed to make them longer. I just needed to make them shorter because of how long just combat takes to do in D&D. So yeah, that's being ready to do that on the fly, having a structure. I mean, a lot of times there needs to be an element so that they're not just like spamming short rests or whatever. Oftentimes there's something like, there's something that can give you the effect of a short rest, just like a potion that can do that. That's like a good hand wavy way to like play with time a little bit. There's the power of the montage you can do that you don't do a lot, but you can. Like that's really good at the end. It's like, okay, we have 5 minutes left and we want these characters to have like a somewhat satisfying ending, and we may never see them again. So let's have everybody talk for a minute about what their characters do after this, right? And try to like montage it there, right? It's trying to tell a complete story, giving everybody's character a chance to shine a little bit, and coming to a satisfying ending. Having a mini arc in your one shot is, it takes some doing.
I remember specifically there was a moment, I think it might have been when we were in office, where there was a moment we were playing a one shot and you were like, okay, we're coming up on time. We've got maybe 30 minutes left. If we can't finish this in a round, we're going to roll a d20 and that is going to be the result of the fight.
Yeah, it was the climactic fight, and everything else had been satisfying. I hadn't wanted to rush through anything else. So it was the last fight. It was like everybody rolled a d20, and depending on the result, you got to you had some degree of narrative control. And that's something basically like a lot of story-based games, like fiction-forward games, do more of that. Basically, if you roll well or whatever the mechanic is, the player has more narrative control. If you roll poorly, the GM has more narrative control about a given thing. Yeah. And so that was a good way to like flavor the climactic ending. I mean, Fiasco is maybe the best example of that, where your ending in Fiasco depends on like what kind of dice you've gathered during the game. And so as you're going, you're seeing, is your character heading for like a tragic, funny, awful ending, or is it going to be, are you going to be the one that gets out of this scenario and like you're the hero, or you got the gold or whatever it was. So you can start playing towards your likely ending too, which helps make it feel more satisfying, I think.
Amber, do you have a way that you structure your one shots?
I did after Hades. Hades was like a labor of love, though. A little bit too much, but yeah.
Hey, Hades, I think we discussed afterwards, it was like you packed in all the stuff you loved, and then when we fully played it out, it was 7 hours long.
You also, again, you asked for, you all have played D&D for years, and were like, give us a challenge, and I went through like 10 books and was like, there you go.
It also was your first one shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was terrifying. No, my trick is have a panic button, because when you guys did the mermaid one shot, you guys sucked at rolling to get on that fucking island. Like, you were gonna drown the dude that was supposed to send you to the island, and I was like, for fuck's sake, okay. I
think you said you cut out a lot because we were taking our sweet time.
You did. You guys all made checks, almost drowned the guy, and then I was like, okay, we're gonna have to pivot real fucking hard.
There's also a thing when you're, and this is not one shot adjacent, but definitely like anytime when it comes to like any type of role play and any system, you can put out a challenge, and one by one your players can try to attempt that challenge with the dice roll. And if they all fail, and you're like, but this is an easy challenge and I expected at least one of them to succeed, there's always that opportunity to
Hand of God.
fail forward. Like, okay, you succeed because you all suck, but the thing breaks underneath the last person's attempt of breaking down a door, but now you all have damage to your shoulder, or you're all going to be limited in whatever you do.
I think that was Crash, because she had rolled a nat one and this guy was about to drown, so I had to maneuver her in a way to get you guys back on land.
I think that's a good point, Mike. Like, with failing forward and, like the narrative control and everything, I don't think D&D is the best system for a limited story, right? I mean, few campaigns get to level 20, but the game is set up for that gradual like increase of power over the long term. And, one shot, it can be one session. Like, is that what we're talking about, just one night? It could also be like, okay, we're going to play this limited story. We expect this to take less than 10 sessions, right? Not quite a one shot, but that's often how they end up playing out. And then there's a lot of games that are kind of built with that in mind. Like, for our side game, we're playing Blades. We didn't end up playing Heart, but Heart like has character advancement kind of designed, guiding your characters towards these dramatic ends. And if you're playing more than like 20 sessions of it, you're probably not doing what the system is set up to do. It's set up to get you in there. You have some big adventures, and then your character reaches a cool conclusion that you'll remember later. D&D is not set up for that, so it's one of those things you gotta make it do that, because that's not what it's built to do on its own.
I like Blades. Blades definitely is not a one shot thing.
Blades is like,
no,
if you really wanted to, Nick, you could fucking kill us in like one score, one go, like, because the way we fucking play.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. But I mean,
So
we can
stressful.
talk about blades, right? It is stressful, and that's
Literally,
stress is a mechanic in
I
the
am
game.
much
so,
but-
I'm so stressed whenever I play,
Yeah.
and by Titan.
I mean-
if I ever get a chance to run a Blades camp or session for you, I would.
I feel
But
like
it's
you and
stress-
I, Mike, are like the most stressed at the end of every
At
score.
the
You
end,
can't
We're
even
like,
look when you roll. You look away.
I look
I
that's-
away.
I don't look. I go like this.
Every roll is so much more. There's so much riding on it. It's not like combat where you're just trading dozens of rolls or whatever in D&D. But Blades, I mean, Blades has the downtime setup. Like you could run Blades as a one shot. You can run any system as a one shot, but it's not built for that. You're supposed to like gradually explore the world, and stuff is supposed to snowball and become the consequences of your past actions. That's not a one shot, right? Stuff happens way later because you did something. You took a devil's bargain 5 sessions ago, right? That feels like a living world, which is
Yeah.
kind of the opposite of a one shot, right? But yeah, also, I mean, I will note in Blades, the cool thing about Blades is as long as you have like you can resist, I can't like yeah, I could take you just lava, you die or whatever. But any harm you can always technically make a resistance roll and not die. Right? So it is kind of in the player's hand, but you could get really, really messed up, right? It would be hard. You would trauma out and it would be hard to progress.
Have all of us traumatized out except for me?
No, only 2 of you. Yeah,
Two of
you
us.
2 have not yet. You 2 have not in our game. So yeah.
Because I've run so many D&D one shots, I think I already have I have a cheat sheet for anyone who wants to take it, and that is tiny fight that lasts maybe 2 rounds, maybe 3, tiny fight, and big fight. And that big fight lasts 4 or 5 rounds, maybe less, like 4, maybe just like that's the minimum. And other than that, 1 or 2 conflicts, whether that's a roleplay conflict or that is a puzzle or some sort of exploration. And beyond that, that's all I need to do. I just need to write the setup, because then I've learned from so many one-shots that I've ran that players, combat takes forever. Combat takes forever, but also players interacting with each other is also super important, and that takes forever. And I want my characters to breathe and talk. It sucks when, and I don't know if anyone's ever done like a random games on the internet where they just jump up with a bunch of strangers. I've been in one shots where it's like, you go to a town, you met with this person, and now you're going to this abandoned home. Roll stealth check. It's like, whoa, hold on. Who are we? Like, can we talk to each other? Like, I want to riff out with this person, and then we can stealth in. Or maybe can we discuss the best ways to go in? Is there maybe a door? Can we investigate? And it's always, and I've had this experience where like a DM goes, just use a stealth check. Go inside. You know how to structure your game, man.
We've also had the
Yeah,
opposite.
Yeah. It feels like a different game, right? It feels like, and you understand why. It's like a video game, right? The best video games, just even Baldur's Gate, there's not an infinite number of ways to do it. Not like you could just describe to a DM, right? There have to be checks and there has to be a funnel, right? And if you're running a game for strangers, like pick up and drop off, right? Also like a pickup game online that who knows who's going to be here next week, right? Is it worth it to do all the work to try to, make it a labor of love and like a deep narrative about these characters? What if this guy just doesn't come back? I can't hook the story on him, right? Might as well just do stealth checks. I mean, it's sad, but you have to railroad a little bit to at least do some of the stuff, jump through some of the hoops of what the game actually, is supposed to do.
Something I read that I like, I don't know if it's for one shot specifically, but basically like stealth railroading. So like, railroad in a way that is disguised as a sandbox of like, I hope none of my players ever see this because then they'll know. But
I'll blurb it. Bleep it.
Yeah. guys,
Spoilers.
keep going. But like the way that I would tend to do it is like, if there's a building with all these different rooms, and I like need them to go in this one specific one because that's where the thing is, and they just keep refusing to go in it for whatever reason, changing what I need inside that room to being in another one.
Yeah.
To being in the one they go in, right? Of like, okay, they don't want to go in this door on the left for whatever reason. That will suddenly be a supply closet, and this is the one with the trapdoor they need to go in. Like,
Now it's a janitor's closet.
yeah, now it is what they need it to be, or what I don't need it to be. It could be a throwaway. Like, having to shuffle stuff like that, and then they're like, oh, we found a cool thing, and I'm like, yes, you did.
Good job.
Yeah, good job.
Yeah,
good
I mean,
job. No, never
I think
know.
that's a really good point, and that's something that, like, I mean, again, Blades as a very popular contrast, like, you can use maps in Blades, but the system doesn't tell you to. Like, stuff is where it needs to be. When I have settings, like, we haven't put up a map on Roll20 for Blades. I've shown you some, like, blueprints or whatever, but we're not moving around a map. It's,
No.
I describe what's there, you know the vague layout. I have notes of, like, the major locations in a place.
And also
And
those
you
little
move from one
blueprints,
to another.
those blueprints and maps you send us, they don't have anything labeled. So each
Yeah,
room can
it's
be
often
whatever.
like what your characters could find. Like, this is a museum, so this is like the map you'd be given at the museum.
Yeah.
It's not important like moving on a grid or whatever. That's not. And so, yeah, if trying to manage time, I think Blades is really good at that, because you don't know going into it, okay, are they going to get a bunch of sixes and these things will not become extra complicated, right? Then this is going to move pretty quick. But if you go into a score and you're in a desperate situation, the very first thing is more challenging. There's going to be more rolls. There's going to be more challenge. That's going to slow stuff down. So you might have other obstacles later that don't need to come up in the interests of time, right? Like, that having that flexibility and being prepared to, like, what feels like a satisfying session, what feels like the end of this adventure, and paying attention to that narrative rather than, like, again, D&D so often is set up like, here are a bunch of rooms, you have to go in each one and figure stuff out and fight something or whatever, and that can be very unfriendly to a one shot kind of thing.
Very much and sort of picking up from Titan's sort of illusion of choice, which, I mean, you know, it's a game, and it happens sometimes. Players, it doesn't matter to players, especially if they're just having a good time, and that's the point. And as the DM, who's like this arbiter of the world, do what you want, you know. And this, I have a little story that comes from our friend Trisha Hirschberger. I was talking to her a few years back, and it was specifically about a one shot. She was, I love this story. It taught me like the things not to do as a DM. She was in a game that was called Lemon something.
Oh, the lemon tree.
Lemon Tree. And the concept was that her party, so she had like a guest DM, and her party was supposed to grab a wagon and bring it up a hill and down, because on the other side of the hill was another town that needed the lemons. I don't know the specifics. It's a cute little idea. It's all lemon themed, sure. But the problem is that while they went up this hill, they ran into blockades and issues and fights and things like that. And if they failed or did poorly, their wagon would lose lemons. And the goal was, you have to get over this hill with the most amount of lemons without going underneath this particular number. And so there was this moment in her story where she was telling me, she goes, I absolutely hated this. And I was like, oh my God, I learned so much from this one particular event. They're going up a winding path. Barbarian, sorcerer, wizard, and other person. And a tree falls in the middle of the path. And they're surrounded by either a cliffside and forest. And so what the DM wanted them to do was to go around the log into the forest and get attacked, get ambushed. But that's not what the players did. The players, the barbarian raged, the sorcerer made him larger. There was another spell effect that affected his strength, so he had double carrying capacity. And the DM went, sure, roll a d20, see if you can get a nat 20, who knows. Rolled with advantage, got a nat 20. It was narrated that he got the login, threw it over, and path was free. Walked 20 feet, another log fell, another tree. And to, like, Titan's point, just let the party have it, and just put the encounter later in the game.
Yeah.
Which is also a tip for anyone who's trying to make a one-shot who's like, I have to have 4 encounters. But if they skip the first one, just reuse it. Recycle it. Later down the game.
Different skin on it. Like, that one could have been so easy of just, like, instead of having another tree fall, just have the path go into the forest.
Yeah. So simple. It could have literally been 20 feet in, the path turns into the forest, and now is on a winding path within. It could have been so... Oh
yeah.
my god.
That's tough.
That was an oh shit, here's another tree to fix my problem.
Yeah, maybe if it didn't work the first time, it'll work the second, the exact same way.
I feel like you concede it though, because you guys in Hades, I didn't want you to go the cold way, but I forgot who the fuck I asked. I think it was Temple. And there I was like, oh, you feel heat coming from that direction, like trying to push you guys to a certain fight.
That's also a great way to like and I sort of did a video on this, which was narrating emotion. Like if a player walks into a room and I go, you start to feel like, there are some players who build their characters like min-maxers who are like, nothing scares me. I'm built like a tank. I can kill anything that walks in the way, walks in my way. But you can definitely narrate that, like you walk in and even with all your power and strength, you nearly drop your weapon. Something in here is really starting to agitate you. And while it may anger you, it may prove as a challenge, in the back of your mind, this thing is something else. And it doesn't work all the time, but sometimes it does for players where they're just like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to start acting scared. Sometimes you just got to push them. Speaking of push, because I'm a master segueing. Yeah.
Words are hard.
It's the end of the day, and I'm tired. Yeah, speaking of push, there is a new type of push into D&D specifically. Though I know it's being used all around the world in terms of TTRPG, and that's AI. There is AI DMs. You didn't know that? Yeah, there are sites
how does
where
how does that work?
You describe your character, you describe the type of story you want, and then you go for it. And then the AI DM starts to write down a little like paragraph of intro. It says, tell me about your character. You tell them about your character, and it goes, the king tells you to do this, and you do that, and it tells you a whole story.
It's almost like the play-by-post thing that you told me about, which I rather do than the AI thing.
Well, play-by-post is by a real person.
Yeah.
And then there's also AI art, obviously, especially when it's character art. Which, hey, support your local artists. Titan. Support her.
Preach.
Go get her stuff. She has amazing art. Go look at her commission list. There are amazing artists all across, and especially who do specialize in like TTRPG and character creation. I could see the use of it. We have done AI art, especially on the channel, as like a last minute thing. Like, ain't got no time. Let's go. Sometimes it's the only option you have available. But definitely it should. I think that's when it comes to art, it should be that way. Especially in a produced thing like we do, produce thing. It should be like a last minute addition. Nick, I know you use AI in our home game, kind of in our side games, but that's not for anyone. That's just for us. And that's just like a visual sort of thing we do. So it's not really needed to even be broadcast.
A visual aid.
Visual aid. A lot of them are cool. I don't know how you get the art to look that way. But nowadays, and this is wild. So this is what I like to call late to the game. It's old news. Super old.
Might be new to us. We don't.
In January of 2024, people found that AI art was being used in Magic the Gathering's ad. There was an ad with Magic Gathering, and it was found you have AI art. Looks like everyone's nodding their heads because I know, Nick, you're involved within Magic Gathering community, and we have got an art community person here, so it's known. During that time, Wizards of the Coast denied that, denies that it, that it did so and admit no wrongdoing, and informed that the game is a game for humans by humans. And I think I'm quoting a little bit like the game is for humans by humans. So why would we use AIR? They denied it. Then of June of 2024, the Wizards of the Coast listed a job position for an AI engineer. Wait a minute. And then besides finding that out, their response to that particular backlash was, our stance in AI hasn't changed, referring back to the humans for humans line. Now, this is old. In September, I guess not that old,
That's
but
not that old.
it's by the time this comes out,
Yeah, it'll be a little old.
it's old. Of September 2024, Chris Cox, who I believe is he the CEO? Or he's one of the heads of Wizards of the Coast.
One moment.
He has confirmed that they've already been using AI. Come on, man. It's can't hide it. We saw it. And he informed that AI is being used in the development of the game, which is totally different than just, I know art is important, but the fact that the structure and system is also kind of assisted or being used by AI or being created by AI is wild.
Is the Hasbro CEO. I think it's important to
Hasbro
make the
CEO
distinction.
and
Yeah.
COO of Wizards of the Coast.
It's so interweaved, you know.
I think a lot of people would say that, rightly or wrongly, a lot of people would point to Hasbro as the source of a lot of the more annoying, businessy aspects of it. But it's like, it's the same. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
He's a business guy. So when he says they're using AI, a lot of businesses say that they're using AI to one degree or another. I think it's basically every big company has been exploring it. Maybe they're doing it officially or unofficially in various ways. He's not specifically saying art because they do have that line drawn, but it's like, is it for workflows? Is it for I don't think anybody cares if it's like, okay, that it's helping with like invoice processing or something, right? We don't care. I mean, maybe accountants feel the same way. And other people might feel it's like you're taking away my art and my livelihood or whatever. I don't think so, but yeah, there's ways, and the AI term is very charged, right? When you machine learning or predictive engines or whatever, there's other ways you can talk about it that are less hype focused, because I think a lot of the AI is very hype focused and overblown and maybe already like crashing and burning a little bit revenue wise. But a lot of companies are like trying to find something to do with it so that they don't get left behind. I think that's whether or not it's actually helping, I think is the question, right? Whether it's making a bottom line difference. Because from what I've seen, a lot of the stuff that it claims to be able to do, it doesn't do particularly well, right? A lot of the internet was not starved for low quality written content. There was already a ton of that. You could already get that very cheap. And now it's just produced by AI instead of like a very low paid person churning out a lot of articles, right?
Oh man, there's a whole fiction community where
I'm talking about just like marketing fluff.
What was I
I'm talking about a new company, a new company or an established company needs to fill out A+ content on 10,000 pages. And it used to be somebody overseas, a company overseas would do it for pennies, and now it's AI doing it, boiling the ocean or whatever. I use it for reference images for our home game. I don't want to buy anything or pay any company money. I get offended when a company is charging money, especially a company as wealthy as like Hasbro, and they should not be doing that. That's lazy and shitty. And I think Disney Marvel used it in like the credits of Secret Invasion, which everybody hated anyway. But that mini series, they said it was a stylistic choice on purpose. What was it? Late Night with the Devil, that horror movie that came out earlier this year, was like a pretty good horror movie, but there was like 3 or 4 interstitial images or like minor parts of the movie that are AI generated art. And it's like, you're a movie. You know artists. Just get an artist to do what you want it to look like. Artists are not that expensive to pay when you're a business making thing. But there's no ethical consumption under capitalism, right? There's a lot of bad stuff, even about just using it for personal use and the home game. Forget who it was, but people asked me years ago, like, what's something that I think that people in the future will look back at us, like people living now, and think that what we did commonly was morally indefensible. And I think probably just like eating meat. I think eating meat is probably morally indefensible, even though I do it. Even like pigs and octopus and the smart ones, I do it. Right? I draw the line arbitrarily at stuff like veal or whatever, or like I wouldn't have ortolan, the little baby birds they drown in wine or whatever, where you have to hide your face from God.
I know nothing about that.
That's horrible.
But yeah, so like
face.
my line that I draw of like only for personal use, only for like image references in games, like I don't think that I can't morally defend that. I do it because it helps enhance a hobby that I enjoy for a small group of people. But it's still like, yeah, every time you drive your car, you're polluting. Every time you get on a plane, you're polluting. Every time you use AI, it's stealing. If there was something that could do the equivalent of what an AI image generator does for reference images and wasn't built on stolen stuff, I would pay like 5 times as much for that thing to exist. And I hope that people are working on something like that, because I would much rather be using something like that.
Go for it.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say, like, I'm kind of also along the lines of like I have different feelings for it depending on who's using it and for what. So like for inspiration images or things of that nature, it's usually something I'm more fine with versus like, yeah, if a big company's using it for a movie, why?
Yeah.
There's no reason for that. That's just, that's lazy, that's cheap. But then there's also like, for those of you, if you are curious and looking, the ones I tend to turn to the most are, it's called Pit Crew. And it's made by real artists, and it's basically like doll makers, more or less. A lot of the time it's like bust up, and there are a lot of ones for D&D specifically.
I think I know that. I think I know that site, actually.
Yeah, it's got a whole bunch, hit or miss a lot of the times, but there are some really, really good ones on there, and it is made hand by artists and things like that. So it's like, there are some, and like they'll never be perfect, but that's like a lot of what my crew and I tend to do. Of like, I don't have time to like draw a piece or commission a piece, and I'm like, in this instance, like I don't want to do AI or whatever the case may be, I'm gonna quickly run and grab like a Pit Crew, and it'll be the closest approximation I can get. Stuff like that. So like the morality bit of it is always a little funky, because morality is kind of funky.
Well, who knows? Maybe one day, instead of us using AI will use us, and the robot,
Mike, we're like the generation that grew up with Skynet. Please don't. No.
Skynet will come and determine that we all must be terminated and all that stuff. It's a horror. Yeah. Like these horror stories I have for you all. I told you I'm really good at segues. Or as I was saying earlier, segues, because I couldn't get it out. I have a really short one for you guys, which I think is just a small chuckle. And these are old ones, like 2 months ago, because whenever I do prep for this series for Above Table, I go immediately to like Reddit, which again, to Nick's point last time, you always have to take these with a grain of salt. Man, but 100%, like these are probably old, so we'll see how people reacted to them. But this one's called "The Story of the Most Unluckiest Player I've Ever Seen." So I can't wait to share this one with you. One of my best friends is the unluckiest player I know. I don't know what he did, that he angered the RNG Jesus so hard that his rolls can't be explained by misfortune alone. Here are some of my personal highlights. Again, this is a very short one. We roll for stats. We roll 4d6, discard the lowest. With this method, he rolled a 3, a 3, a 5, a 6, a 6, and a 7. Nothing over double digits. That's a horrible starting. The DM told him to re-roll, but the only improvement was that he replaced that 7 with a 9.
It's fine.
It's so
Love
sad.
that.
He has advantage on attack rolls and rolled 2 nat 1s in a row. Not 2 fails, 2 nat 1s. So that's 4 nat 1s in a row. That's horrible. Every time he gets healed by a spell, potion, or ability, always rolls minimum rolls. And he once used a level 3 spell slot to smite a bandit, and landed on a crit. For damage, she only rolled 1s.
This is like try not to cringe or feel pain challenge over here. I'm just like, oh yeah, I've been there. That hurts.
Imagine that feeling of playing as a paladin and you're like, nat 20. You're like, here we go. And I know this is possible because in Nick, once again, we're jumping back to Blades. There's that one session where we rolled nothing but like 3s and under. And it was just nat 1s all across the board. So it's a possibility.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think
there
Cindy
was
rolled
4
all ones.
There was 4 4s rolled, and then she rolled either 3 1s or 4 1s on her
4
next
ones.
thing.
I think I did the
Yeah.
3s.
Yeah,
Look,
that
is
was
weird. I played a long-term character. He was supposed to be like kind of player-esque, you know, like flirtatious. I've never rolled more nat 1s for charisma checks than I have with that specific character. He just was not allowed.
The really bad thing is like you present yourself as like, I have all the charisma in the world. I have a 20 charisma. Nat 1. Hi, babe. Oh, jeez.
Just like, I'm trying, guys. I don't know. Give up on me. Move on.
Yeah, it sounds like this guy in this story, like there's a lot of different dice are being rolled. But I will note that when I started playing D&D long time ago, I got like a starter set, and it came with some dice. But I think it came with one of those sets of dice. So there's only one D6, and so I had to scrounge other 6-sided dice from the other games that were in my house
Monopoly
for whatever
set.
reason. And I played for a bit. And then I discovered that one of my 6-sided dice only went up to 3.
What?
It had 2 1s, 2 2s, and 2 3s. And I had never noticed that. And I was rolling like abilities and stuff. Rolling 3d6 for abilities with that dice.
That's so
That's
fun.
tough.
If you feel like you're having bad luck, maybe just look real closely, make sure all the numbers are there. But also this is making me think, if you knew that you were cursed to roll badly, and let's say you could take the standard array, what kind of character do you play? Either to have fun or to minimize the damage. Like, what kind of character can do a lot without having to roll well?
Easy. Rangers?
Ranger.
I have an
Rangers,
answer, but
yeah.
I'll let everyone else answer.
I don't fucking know.
You don't know?
I think everything
feel-
I've played
yeah.
has to hit somehow.
I mean, I feel like depending on your spell choice, there's a lot of spells that just do
Yeah.
stuff.
Or like
right.
have other
Magic
people roll.
missile and
Yeah, you
stuff like
force
that.
them to roll. And even if they succeed,
Yeah.
they still take half damage.
This
I mean,
is
like,
true.
fly. You cast fly, there's no save, somebody can fly. That's helpful, right? There's a
Yeah.
lot of defensive spells, abjuration spells that just work.
Yeah. It's
So
just
stuff
great.
like that, you could be pretty effective.
I
Todd
said
Howard
Rangers mostly
just
because
work.
of
Yeah.
it just does.
It just works.
I said Rangers because they have a bunch of features and stuff that work outside of combat.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
you can do
You
a lot
just
of
turn
like
stuff
that.
on. Like, I guess Artificer could kind of be like that. I'd have to double check all their stuff, but you just have magic items that just make
Yeah.
you better, or you hand them out to the party
Yeah.
or whatever.
Walk in with a ton of
Artificer's
shit
a
on you
good option.
to help
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Because Artificers are really, because if you are bad at rolling, the Alchemist Artificer is that you can make healing potions. And
Yeah,
you just
give those
hand
out. You roll.
and have other
Yeah.
people roll. You're like, here, you
Yeah.
heal yourself, and I will just buff you. That's a really, you just play a buff person.
Yeah.
I was gonna say a divination wizard
Say
Yeah.
a
and a
wizard.
rune knight for
Yeah.
that one idea that you can just make other people make saves for your wizard spells, And Rune Knight gives it the one ability of just like, you're about to hit me? No.
Nope.
Hit someone else.
No.
Yeah, that's good.
And Divination, you can give your nat 1s to other people.
Yeah. At least have you anything that sets. I think there's, is it the Chrono Wizard or whatever, one of those weird subclasses where you can like set a dice to 10. There's like some sub ability where you can just do that a lot. There's weird magic items that let you get like good enough rolls a lot of the time.
Oh, rogue. If you get a high level rogue,
Yeah.
Oh,
you
yeah.
can't roll below a 10.
Yes. The one I just
expecting
played.
this really crappy character to live that long.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
true.
Yeah. Unless you start at a high level. If you
Yes.
start making a high level one.
Salandra, the character I just played, one of the druid of the stars or whatever, their dragon form, you can make it so anytime you make a concentration save, it's at least 10. Right? So you won't fail concentration, but most of the spells you'd be concentrating on, you'd be rolling for, so that's not quite as good. But anything that cheats the system like that, I think, is interesting.
I have another horror story, but I think that's actually a better segue because that was a thing we weren't able to get with, we were able to do. Generally, most of the time after we do sessions like Vintier or Reconstruction, which by the time this comes out, it came out.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
We never had the ability to do sort of a short rest, which is sort of our other show. We sort of recap what just happened. Considering that you two were new characters into this level 2 to level 20 campaign that we did for 4 years and having you guys drop in as sort of a guest characters, I'd rather talk about that, honestly. What was your, we'll start with Salandra. What was your inspiration to make this character?
Salandra Maxima, which is her name, is a kind of flower. It's a big ass yellow flower that grows on a vine. I think it's native to the Pacific Islands, but it's all over California. If you see something growing all over like somebody's house or wall and has big yellow flowers and you're like, what the hell is that? It's probably a Salandra Maxima. And basically everything else came from the name. It's like clearly she's going to be stun focused. So I did some reading about like interesting classes or whatever. Then when I hit on like, okay, what if she was going to be a druid, nature focused, she's focused on the sun. Okay, stars, right? Because the sun is a star. And then just picking a lot of the star forms. I also thought it was fun to have her be like an Aasimar and have that transformation ability in addition to the star form ability. Like having her kind of Voltron herself up was fun from there. But it all came from learning the name of that particular flower, and like the name just tells what kind. I first thought she was going to be a paladin, right? The Maxima kind of implies the paladin, which would be. But I'm like, all right, I want to be something different. What else could she be? And then I think druid was like the second option. It's like, yeah, that feels right.
Which kind of fit. And for Easel, what was the inspiration for that?
He was a weird one. I tend to pick kind of like with Nick in the flower thing. Like I'll pick traits or vibes, and I love having contradictions built into characters. Yes. So that one was one where I was like, so we have Salandra Maxima. We have this like druid, powerful name, so probably gonna have a big personality. And then we have these 3 level 20s, and these are each of their vibes. I was like, okay, I don't want a character who will necessarily compete with that, so I need someone who's able to fit in the background a little bit more and support. And then I was thinking, like, what haven't I played? Well, there's Necromancer, and then I was like, would they like Necromancer because of what they went through? There's no way. So I was like, what if I just made it a really good-hearted Necromancer who was trying really hard to be like a healer, and there was just something cursed about him that just wasn't gonna let it work. So that was the contradiction I built in.
That avenue you took, because honestly, it's not like you present yourself like a necromancer, like you're like, the dead, I can't wait to raise them and have them do my bidding. It was more like, can I heal you guys in the worst way possible?
I think I said it, I don't know if it was during a break or post, but when we encountered those 2 dead guards, the reason I kept stumbling as Easel was he wanted so badly to ask, like, can I try to bring them back to life? Like, can I try to revivify them? Which would be the animate dead spell sitting in my spellbook. And the only reason I didn't, or rather he didn't, was like, they were already talking about, we need to get this back to their family. We need to go tell them the news. I was like, oh, so we're not trying to save them. Okay. We'll just let them be. That's fine.
Valid. Yeah, that would have been an avenue, but definitely sort of taking the vibe of the scene and going with it. Amber was sort of experiencing it with me, as every time when you guys did submit your character sheets and your character ideas, I was so giddy. I was like bringing the phone over to Amber. I'm like, look, we got a druid and a wizard, which are definitely classes we don't have in the original 3. And especially when we were talking, and the fact that Amber, you're here, there was so much sort of like similarities, like small overlaps, but enough where it sort of differed them enough where I was like, oh yeah, Amber, we have a druid who's really into the sun and you're a sun god champion.
I think, well, I mean, we made it different because I feel like the way, just because he's the main example, Matthew Mercer explains Pelor is like this omnipotent god that you fear or really like. Like there's kind of like that balanced scale, but I didn't want to do that. I told you I explicitly didn't want to do that. I was like, she's not religious in like the typical sense. She's had this entity her whole life and treats it like somebody that's part of her family, but has been put in her place when she has smart-mouthed off to a god a couple of times.
I've had to put you in your place.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Pelor is like, excuse me.
It's like, bitch, please come down.
I'm taking away all your abilities.
So I think like the difference between her and Solandra, like Solandra was like, I'm fully sold, and Vera was like, I'm the champion of a god and I don't got that vibe that you got.
Solandra felt more I know you weren't religious, but it was more like dedicated to this this concept.
As soon as like we hit on that, I thought that was an interesting contrast, because like Solandra is from a people that worship the stars and the sun, like literally the sun. Like I think she was brought up a long time before ever hearing like the name Pelor, that there is a god associated with the sun. It's the sun itself. And like that's, weird pharaohs in Egyptian history tried to make that switch a couple of times, where it's like, no, it's not Ra, the sun god. It's like literally the disk of the sun. That's what we worship. Like, forget about the personification of it. It's the thing in the sky, right? And that's but then like she ends up in a place where like the champion of the sun god is associated. It's like, okay, so clearly it's for Solandra it was easy. It's the same thing. It's all part of the same thing. This is where I'm supposed to be. I should see what she does and try to live up to that.
Yeah.
Right?
We're all at the same table. We're all at the same dinner table, eating together, having
yes.
Yeah. And then the fact that Amber, you're here playing Vera, and then we have Easel, who is like, I want to be a healer, and the fact that you're a cleric, during the whole thing of Mosted was like, you were the party healer.
I really thought, like, in character, I was like, Vera probably thinks that Easel doesn't eat enough because, like, your magic did, like, I forgot what effect it did when you ate the bread bowl. I was like, maybe that's your whole deal.
Yeah, just a spindly little guy, like, because for him, the way I had his idea for, like, the upbringing is, like, if he stays one place too long, it'll just die. Like, if he sits in a patch of grass for too long, it just starts to wither away.
Oh, that's so cool.
Right? Like that kind of hexblood curse that kind of lingers with him. And he's like, but he doesn't like that. Like, he prefers the way the grass looks when it's alive, and he prefers the way flowers look when they're alive, and people, things, like, so it was that, like, longing of, like, I want to heal, but every time he did, he's just, like, too filled with negative energy. So instead of pouring life, it was pouring death.
It's always a monkey's paw situation. You're like, bring him back to life.
Yeah.
And now they're a zombie. It's like, damn it, again, this keeps happening.
He's great at bringing the body back. The soul is just a little more complicated. But,
you're like, you meant that, right? You meant that?
Yeah, this is the same thing. I'm seeing the same. It's moving again. And then with the Griffins, it was one of those, I didn't want to because especially like I'd already read Solandra's thing of like fangirl to Vera, and I was like, okay, I don't want two Vera fangirls. There's like the mentorship, and then it went to, well, he's very familiar with death. That is not going to be something that bothers him because that's been his whole life. So what does he do when he tests this health potion and it kills something? Savannah, do you want it? Like stuff like that, and then really admiring Rolly because it's like, you're so big and strong and I'm not, and like nothing around me is, and like I can eat and eat and eat and eat and it will just disappear somewhere and I'll keep being spindly, but it's like you're so cool. So it was trying to like grab.
It was so wild because I obviously trust you guys making characters that fit well within the party, but the fact that the three Griffins already had like this well-established sort of bond, there was sort of a notion in the back of my mind that was going, I really hope it's not like here are the older, the seniors, and then here are the juniors, but the fact that like you guys came in so clutch with all these like abilities, like we had like Solandra being the first one to fly in combat, and the one who was like, even in roleplay moments of like, it's cold, I hate being cold, I have a campsite that can come with me anywhere, and having sort of like I remember there was a moment where like Temple's character's fan, it was like, Soul, bring out the fire, please. And it was like immediately to that.
I think our group was never that way though, because we all said it as Temple, Stephen, and myself, that when we played that campaign, it was very much, we didn't know how to fucking take breaks. We just like barrel rolled through all the obstacles and it kept going because Mike loves to be sadistic to us. I had a thing called
Hell's Fortnite, which was in game.
Yeah.
Not in real world. In game, the party went through 2 weeks of hell.
Yeah.
Didn't rest for 2 weeks.
And so character wise, I told Mike, I was like, my character probably has fucking PTSD, and the fact that these two have like our help now makes Vera, I think, as a character realize that those challenges were that much fucking harder because it was always just those three. So I was like, hey, my PTSD is verified, it's valid.
I gave a little highlights for what I liked about Soul, and for Easel, like having the teleport spell,
yeah, that was clutch.
in hand, was very clutch. And there was during part 2, there was a sort of an event I gave you guys that was completely negated because Easel had breathe underwater. And I turned to Amber and like after the session, and I was like, I grabbed the shoulders and I was like, how did she know? That makes no sense. I had a water trap and everything.
I picked out 2 kinds of spells, really 3. It was, can it do poison damage? Can it do necrotic damage? Or is it a support spell? That was it.
I measured everything out in terms of like what speed would be underwater and how long that would take for a minute. And I didn't even look at everyone's con modifier because everyone can hold their breath for 1 plus their con amount of minutes. And when the magnet went off, I was like, in my mind, I was like, they don't have breathe underwater. They're gonna have to hold their breaths. This is where I kill them. This is where I really make it hard. And if they do survive, this is where Vera has to make her channel divinity and waste that and say, bring everyone back. And so that was my idea, to expend a level 20 person's wild ability. And no, Easel comes out and goes, everyone gets to breathe underwater. And we just negate the whole fucking thing. And I was like, God damn it, how did you know? So there was a lot of clutch moments for both characters, the newbies, where I was like, oh my God. Yeah, to your point, Amber, if Easel and Soul were a part of the original Griffins, the threats would have been way less, heartache.
Friendship.
Yeah, there was just insane. Mike would like play it on the emotions, I think, that whole campaign, because I was like, dude, you killed her brother, you killed her sister, you killed her husband, and like 2 of her main friends that she cannot bring back despite divine intervention. So I'm just like, yeah, no. She carries all her shit at all times in case she's got to whoop somebody's ass.
But You can really catch these new characters as well as the 3 Griffins by watching Reconstruction, both parts. They should be out by now. And I think that's what we're going to call it for Above Table. So once again, thank you so much for joining us. Check us out because I believe this comes out Saturday. So join us next week for another episode of Trials of Ventir. See you guys then.